CIET NCERT presents Audiobook Beehive.
Unit 1. The Fun They Had. Let's listen to the introduction. This story takes us to the world of the future, where computers will play a major role. Let the children talk freely about how they imagine the schools of the future that their own children might go to. You might want to explain the ideas of virtual reality and virtual classroom. You might want to explain the ideas of virtual reality and virtual classroom. The term virtual reality refers to a reality created by computer software, and a virtual classroom is not a real classroom, but one where learning is through computer software or the internet. The children may know what a robot is and be able to guess what a robotic teacher would be. In this unit, students are required to present their arguments in a debate. The following points could be explained before the task. A debate is a contest between two speakers or two groups of speakers to show skill and ability in arguing. A proposition, a question, or a problem is required for this purpose, which can be spoken for or against. To participate in a debate, one must prepare for it. So, one must prepare an outline of the main points in the order in which one is going to argue. The time limit is about 4 to 5 minutes. The speaker addresses the audience. Every topic or subject has its own vocabulary. These must be learned. The speaker addresses the chair, Mr. President or Madam, submits an argument, appeals for sympathetic understanding and support, questions the opponent's views, and concludes an argument. Now let us listen to chapter number 1, The Fun They Had, written by Isaac Asimov, from page number 5 to 14. Before you read, the story we shall read is set in the future, when books and schools, as we now know them, will perhaps not exist. How will children study then? The diagram says the schools of the future would aid learning through computers, virtual classrooms, moving e-text, and a robotic teacher. In pairs, discuss 3 things that you like best about your school and 3 things about your school that you would like to change. Write them down. Have you ever read words on a television or computer screen? Can you imagine a time when all books will be on computers and there will be no books printed on paper? Would you like such books better? The fun they had. Paragraph 1. Margie even wrote about it that night in her diary. On the page headed 17 May 2157, she wrote, "Today Tommy found a real book. It was a very old book. Margie's grandfather once said that when he was a little boy, his grandfather had told him that there was a time when all stories were printed on paper. They turned the pages, which were yellow and crinkly, and it was awfully funny to read words that stood still instead of moving the way they were supposed to, on a screen, you know. And then, when they turned back to the page before, it had the same words on it that it had had when they read it the first time. "Gee," said Tommy, "what a waste. When you're through the book, you just throw it away, I guess." Our television screen must have had 1,000,000 books on it, and it's good for plenty more. I wouldn't throw it away. "Same with mine," said Margie. She was 11 and hadn't seen as many telebooks as Tommy had. He was 13. She said, "Where did you find it?" "In my house." He pointed without looking because he was busy reading. "In the attic." "What's it about?" "School." Margie was scornful. "School? What's there to write about school? I hate school." Margie always hated school, but now she hated it more than ever. The mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse until her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. Margie had hoped he wouldn't know how to put it together again, but he knew how all right, and after an hour or so, there it was again, large and black and ugly, with a big screen on which all the lessons were shown and the questions were asked. That wasn't so bad. The part Margie hated most was the slot where she had to put homework and test papers. She always had to write them out in a punch code they made her learn when she was 6 years old. And the mechanical teacher calculated the marks in no time. The inspector had smiled after he was finished and patted Margie's head. He said to her mother, "It's not the little girl's fault, Mrs. Jones. I think the geography sector was geared a little too quick. Those things happen sometimes. I have slowed it up to an average 10-year level. Actually, the overall pattern of her progress is quite satisfactory." And he patted Margie's head again. Margie was disappointed. She had been hoping they would take the teacher away altogether. They had once taken Tommy's teacher away for nearly a month because the history sector had blanked out completely. So she said to Tommy, "Why would anyone write about school?" Tommy looked at her with very superior eyes. "Because it's not our kind of school, stupid. This is the kind of school that they had hundreds and hundreds of years ago." He added loftily, pronouncing the word carefully, "centuries ago." Margie was hurt. "Well, I don't know what kind of school they had all that time ago. She read the book over his shoulder for a while, then said, "Anyway, they had a teacher." Sure, they had a teacher. But it wasn't a regular teacher. It was a man. A man? How could a man be a teacher? Well, he just told the boys and girls things and gave them homework and asked them questions. A man isn't smart enough. Sure he is. My father knows as much as my teacher. He knows almost as much, I betcha. Margie wasn't prepared to dispute that. She said, "I wouldn't want a strange man in my house to teach me." Tommy screamed with laughter. "You don't know much, Margie. The teachers didn't live in the house. They had a special building, and all the kids went there." "And all the kids learnt the same thing?" "Sure, if they were the same age." "But my mother says a teacher has to be adjusted to fit the mind of each boy and girl it teaches, and that each kid has to be taught differently." Just the same, they didn't do it that way then. If you don't like it, you don't have to read the book. I didn't say I didn't like it, Margie said quickly. She wanted to read about those funny schools. They weren't even half finished when Margie's mother called. "Margie, school!" Margie looked up. "Not yet, Mama." "Now," said Mrs. Jones. "And it's probably time for Tommy too." Margie said to Tommy, "Can I read the book some more with you after school?" "Maybe," he said nonchalantly. He walked away whistling, the dusty old book tucked beneath his arm. Margie went into the schoolroom. It was right next to her bedroom, and the mechanical teacher was on and waiting for her. It was always on at the same time every day except Saturday and Sunday, because her mother said little girls learned better if they learned at regular hours. The screen was lit up, and it said, "Today's arithmetic lesson is on the addition of proper fractions. Please insert yesterday's homework in the proper slot." Margie did so with a sigh. She was thinking about the old schools they had when her grandfather's grandfather was a little boy. All the kids from the whole neighborhood came, laughing and shouting in the schoolyard, sitting together in the schoolroom, going home together at the end of the day. They learned the same things so they could help one another with the homework and talk about it. And the teachers were people. The mechanical teacher was flashing on the screen. When we add fractions 1 by 2 and 1 by 4, Margie was thinking about how the kids must have loved it in the old days. She was thinking about the fun they had. Word meanings. Crinkly, with many folds or lines. Attic, a space just below the roof used as a storeroom. Scornful, contemptuous, showing you think something is worthless. Slot. A given space, time, or position. Geared to. Adjusted to a particular standard or level. Loftily. In a superior way. Regular. Here, normal, of the usual kind. Betcha. Informal. I bet you. In fast speech. I'm sure. Dispute. Disagree with. Nonchalantly. Not showing much interest or enthusiasm. Carelessly. Thinking about the text. Activity. Calculate how many years and months ahead from now Margie's diary entry is. Answer these questions in a few words or a couple of sentences each. 1. How old are Margie and Tommy? 2. What did Margie write in her diary? 3. Had Margie ever seen a book before? 4. What things about the book did she find strange? 5. What do you think a telebook is? 6. Where was Margie's school? Did she have any classmates? 7. What subjects did Margie and Tommy learn? Answer the following with reference to the story. 1. I won't throw it away. First, who says these words? Second, what does it refer to? Third, what is it being compared with by the speaker? 2. Sure, they had a teacher, but it wasn't a regular teacher. It was a man. First, who does they refer to? Second, what does regular mean here? Third, what is it contrasted with? Answer each of these questions in a short paragraph, about 30 words. 1. What kind of teachers did Margie and Tommy have? 2. Why did Margie's mother send for the county inspector? 3. What did he do? 4. Why was Margie doing badly in geography? What did the county inspector do to help her? 5. What had once happened to Tommy's teacher? 6. Did Margie have regular days and hours for school? If so, why? 7. How does Tommy describe the old kind of school? 8. How does he describe the old kind of teachers? Answer each of these questions in 2 or 3 paragraphs, 100 to 150 words. 1. What are the main features of the mechanical teachers and the schoolrooms that Margie and Tommy have in the story? 2. Why did Margie hate school? Why did she think the old kind of school must have been fun? 3. Do you agree with Margie that schools today are more fun than the school in the story? Give reasons for your answer. Thinking about language. Adverbs. Read this sentence taken from the story. They had once taken Tommy's teacher away for nearly a month because the history teacher had blanked out completely. The word complete is an adjective. When you add ly to it, it becomes an adverb. 1. Find the sentences in the lesson which have the adverbs given in the box below. Awfully, sorrowfully, completely, loftily, carefully, differently, quickly, nonchalantly. Now, use these adverbs to fill in the blanks in the sentences below. First, the report must be read blank so that performance can be improved. Second, at the interview, Samir answered our questions blank, shrugging his shoulders. Third, we all behave blank when we are tired or hungry. Fourth, the teacher shook her head blank when Ravi lied to her. Fifth, I blank forgot about it. Sixth, when I complimented Revati on her success, she just smiled blank and turned away. Seventh, the president of the company is blank, busy and will not be able to meet you. Eighth, I finished my work blank so that I could go out to play. Remember, an adverb describes action. You can form adverbs by adding ly to adjectives. Spelling note. When an adjective ends in y, the y changes to I when you add ly to form an adverb. For example, angry changes to angrily. Make adverbs from these adjectives: angry, happy, merry, sleepy, easy, noisy, tidy, gloomy. If not and unless. Imagine that Margie's mother told her, "You'll feel awful if you don't finish your history lesson." She could also say, "You'll feel awful unless you finish your history lesson." Unless means if not. Sentences with unless or if not are negative conditional sentences. Notice that these sentences have two parts. The part that begins with if not or unless tells us the condition. This part has a verb in the present tense. Look at the verbs don't finish, finish in the sentences above. The other part of the sentence tells us about a possible result. It tells us what will happen if something else doesn't happen. The verb in this part of the sentence is in the future tense. You'll feel or you will feel. Notice these two tenses again in the following examples. Future tense. There won't be any books left unless. Present tense. We preserve them. You won't learn your lessons if you don't study regularly. Tommy will have an accident unless he drives more slowly. Complete the following conditional sentences. Use the correct form of the verb. 1. If I don't go to Anu's party tonight, blank. 2. If you don't telephone the hotel to order food, blank. 3. Unless you promise to write back, I, blank. 4. If she doesn't play any games, blank. 5. Unless that little bird flies away quickly, the cat, blank. Writing. A new revised volume of Isaac Asimov's short stories has just been released. Order one set. Write a letter to the publisher, Mind Fame Private Limited, 1632, Asaf Ali Road, New Delhi, requesting that a set be sent to you by Value Payable Post, VPP, and giving your address. Your letter will have the following parts: addresses of the sender and receiver, the salutation, the body of the letter, the closing phrases, and signature. Your letter might look like this. Your address, left side of the page, your address. Left side of the page, date, format, DD, YY. Again, left side of the page, the addressee's address. Left side of the page, Dear Sir or Madam. Body of the letter. Again, left side of the page, Yours sincerely. Again, left side of the page, your signature. Remember that the language of a formal letter is different from the colloquial style of personal letters. For example, contracted forms such as I've or can't are not used. Speaking. In groups of 4, discuss the following topic. The schools of the future will have no books and no teachers. Your group can decide to speak for or against the motion. After this, each group will select a speaker to present its views to the entire class. You may find the following phrases useful to present your argument in the debate. In my opinion, I or we fail to understand why. I or we fail to understand why. I wholeheartedly support or oppose the view that. At the outset, let me say, out or we would like to raise the issue of or argue against. I should like to draw attention to. My or our worthy opponent has submitted that, on the contrary, I firmly reject. Quote: in the words of Voltaire, false science creates atheists. True science prostrates man before divinity.
You were just listening to this chapter from Beehive, presented by CIET NCERT, New Delhi, India.